This episode is sponsored by Card Kingdom and Coalesce Apparel and Design. Pick up cool Magic cards and cool Magic shirts to support the show by following the links below. It's also sponsored by Tolarian Community College. Contribute to Prof's massively successful Kickstarter campaign and receive this excellent and inspired deck box. This is the Academic 133 Plus XL. It's a beautiful product. It's the one-stop shop for the treasure of your collection. You know, Prof and I started making videos around the same time, and over the years he has been the pioneer, the trailblazer for what's possible in the Magic space. This project to me embodies his relentless work ethic, his artistry, and his passion for the game. It's no surprise to see his capstone project reach the heights it has, and I'm happy to help endorse his Kickstarter campaign. Back the project if you haven't already. You're really in for a treat with this. And from one friend to another, congratulations, Brian. About a month ago, in between daydreams, I found myself browsing the Card Kingdom graded store. I was caught in a state of passive scrolling, a moody procrastination. Maybe I was mining for inspiration of some sort, when I happened upon this card and paused. I sat staring at it, sort of hypnotized. All along the edges was a gentle, uniform wear, a white powder of hidden fabric emerging from a faded black border. A tiny crease was nestled into the bottom right corner. On the back, a series of razor-thin scratches defaced the design, like the carving of ice skates gliding along a frozen lake. Stray blue ink from a wayward ballpoint's pen wove through the Deckmaster placard, an ephemeral wisp forever cloned and copied onto the card back. This is an absolutely perfect Magic card, I thought. Wait, it's graded a 4?
A below-average collectible with multiple moderate defects.
No, this is a 10. This is the platonic ideal of a card manufactured in the year 1993. 30 years have never looked better on anything. I thought about buying this card. If I looked away long enough, $2,000 seemed unremarkable, even trivial. I became defensive of its grade, slighted by the tenacity of reducing such a treasure to a 4 out of 10. A 4 out of 10. I wanted to touch this card, rip it from its hideous plastic shelling. This isn't a postage stamp, it doesn't belong in a museum, it is a museum. Look at the way it wears its memories. Then I felt conflicted. For a price, I could own the card, but I could never own its past. The stories ingrained into its surfaces could only be retold in my imagination. To own this card would be to inherit someone else's lived experiences, but to never know them. And besides, what would I do with it? Tucking it away in a binder would be just as much an offense to its history as this polymer sarcophagus, this atrocity. So I closed the browser tab. The library got me thinking about the value of old, worn-out Magic cards. How that value seems impossible to calculate and quantify. How it feels like an insult to even try. I then remembered a film that my friend Rob recommended I watch called The Price of Everything, which explores the outrageous secondary markets and auctions in the world of fine art. About halfway through the documentary, the esteemed and now late pop art collector Stefan Edlis jokingly looks at the camera and laughs.
There's a lot of people that know the price of everything and the value of nothing.
It's never been easier to spend a lot of money on Magic. Consider this video that my friend DJ made at Jumbo Commander, in which he builds the most expensive EDH deck available to him while remaining somewhat bound to a mechanical theme. The result is an assemblage of flash and foil, a pile of the oldest and fanciest cards within a creative constraint. At the time of recording, DJ marked the price of the deck around $60,000 US.
Our last Draw 7 is Memory Jar. This foil from Urza's Legacy is around $850.
In December 2021, Game Nights played with a similar idea. For their annual Bling Miss battle, Jimmy, Josh, Aaron, and Olivia cobbled together functional stacks of luxurious cardboard and then auctioned off the builds for charity. Each deck sold for roughly $8,000, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but that feels like a steal. While Commander decks can very quickly rack up high price tags, nothing compares to the buy-in for vintage Magic in paper. By now, most players who keep the format alive have probably been around since the beginning, They've grown old alongside the cards they had as kids and choose to play the game as it was idealized at its conception. An average Tier 1 vintage deck can range from 50 to 100k, but for the game's most enfranchised players, their collections are priceless. That Library of Alexandria likely cut its teeth among such enthusiasts. In this way, vintage Magic captures the beautiful tension between price and value. The paradox comes full circle with cards that command the highest cost. They are both valuable in the market and invaluable as mementos. Inversely, while the $60,000 Gwendolyn de Courcy deck is expensive, I doubt even DJ would consider it valuable. Ultimately, it is a stack of pricey commercial goods, assembled together as a self-referential experiment and a nod to the inflated secondary market. It has no memory or sentiment. It can be acquired instantly by anyone willing to pay, and then what? While watching this deck tech, I thought about its potential antithesis. I imagined a deck without a price tag, a deck whose value you cannot measure, a deck you cannot buy. Then, with a grin, I remembered such a deck exists. It is real.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Yeah, my name is Douglas Johnson. Pretty much everybody calls me DJ. I am a Magic card vendor / store owner / whatever you want to call it.
For the past few years, my friend DJ, yes, another DJ, has been playing a commander deck unlike any other. It is a Frankenstein's monster, an aberration, an absolute mess. It is a hideous wonder of the Magic world, and it's probably my favorite EDH deck of all time. This is the infamous Gonti deck.
The rule was that it had to be built out of my own inventory, so I was not allowed to buy cards for this deck. It had to be as worst condition as possible out of my inventory, and then I decided to build something that would scale to the power level of the group. The initial rule set was, okay, I have 99 cards, this is a deck that's worth only maybe $100 or $200, and I didn't spend any money to put it together because it was built out of cards I already owned in my inventory.
Slowly, as DJ went to more conventions and negotiated with Magic players looking to sell old cards from their collections, the deck transformed and took on a life of its own.
Just decided, you know what, it'd be cool if every card in this deck was from the original printing. That was sort of my way of making it sort of more unique and more a personalized project that I could work towards. And a byproduct of that is when you try to search for the original printing of Animate Dead and Swamp and Demonic Tutor, then you end up on a bit more of a expensive treasure hunt. And because you don't want to look for cards that are, I don't want to play an LP Alpha Soul, like I'm not a monster. You end up looking for the worst version of the card that you can, such that the value doesn't necessarily decrease as you play the card outside of a sleeve.
So what exactly is living in this rotten pile of cardboard? Well, let's start with one of the deck's win conditions.
I know my Torment of Hailfire when I picked it up. I was just flipping through a binder, just pulling out cards to buy, typical Magic Fest stuff. And then I pulled out the Torment of Hailfire. They're like, oh, you don't want that. It's really water damaged. I think I spilled something out at some point, and I just said, no, you don't understand. I need this Torment of Hailfire because the one I have is like MPHP. This one's water damaged. I need it. So there's definitely like a treasure hunt aspect to it that comes as a part of the job that I don't think a lot of other people would be able to experience.
A game-ending spell like Torment of Hailfire is only effective if supported by a heavy cache of mana sources.
I have a cycle of mana rocks that are all blacked out. Somebody took a Sharpie and they eliminated every bit of the card face except for whatever the rock itself is. So the Thought Vessel, everything except that little puzzle thing is just blacked out with a Sharpie. Same with the Soul Ring, a Mana Vault. I have like 10 or 15 mana rocks that are all just blacked out like that. And so I took this Thought Vessel up to RK Post. I think I was in Memphis for that GP. I just put it on the table and he just gave me a look. And I said, I didn't do it. Wasn't me. I didn't do that, but you have free reign to do what you want with the card. And I think he did a really good job of just like using his creative freedom to do whatever he wanted to the cards. That was fun.
One of the more sentimental cards in the deck is another mana rock that Commander players know and love.
This is a treasure that a lot of people I think are envious of. A signed Felwar Stone from the Dark. This is a card that the artist has since passed away in the past few years, Quentin Hoover. And I had a very, very, very near-mint signed copy of the card that I found in a collection one day, and I didn't want to play the near-mint signed one in my Gonti deck, so I ended up going to the Facebook signed group Sphere of Magic, and I ended up trading that very pristine one for a very well-loved signed Felwar Stone, so that I could get this one onto the battlefield like it deserves to be, and that one, the other one, can like sit in somebody's binder for forever.
But even these cards are still relatively intact in comparison to some of the other heavy hitters in the deck.
I have a Liliana Dreadhorde General, and you can see it's not all there. It says Love Sophie with a heart on it. I don't know who Sophie is, but I hope that they appreciated it. This looks like, I think it might have been a dog that got to the card. I have an Ulamog Ceaseless Hunger that suffered a similar fate.
And as for my absolute favorite piece...
So, the Mana Crypt. I tally the wins and losses on this card with a Sharpie of the coin flips I take. So, Mana Crypt is a 0-mana artifact that requires you to flip a coin every turn. If you lose the flip, you take 3 damage. I have marked the coin flips on the card. I'm currently pretty up on my record, my wins and losses record.
Finally, the leader of this battered army has an origin story that perfectly embodies the heart of the deck. This is Gonti, Lord of Luxury. The irony of his name does not escape me.
Gonti himself is a Russian foil pre-release promo that is still in the sealed plastic that the pre-release promos come in. I ordered it off eBay and it came not in a top loader, but it was taped to a cardboard cutout of a cereal box. I think it was like a cardboard shard of a Frosted Flakes box.
When traveling to conventions, DJ totes the Gonti deck around in a plastic bag. The mainboard and sideboard are bound together with a thick rubber band, and when it's time for a game, DJ riffle shuffles the pile of cards in a manner dissonant with the conventional mass shuffle that most players learn early on. The deck is functional too. Its game plan focuses on flickering Gonti and casting opponent spells against them. Often these cards are sleeved and kept intact. Their near mint quality provides a harsh contrast to the destroyed game pieces in their surrounding. The deck recontextualizes the concept of luxury in a way that extends beyond its mechanics. I find this detail charming and important. Here in this deck lives the same spirit present in the Library of Alexandria from the beginning of this video, a spirit that has been lost to a culture obsessed with preservation. To play off Stefan Edlis's comment, the Gonti deck has no price, and its value is all but relative. There are many players who despise the deck, who consider it blasphemous and insulting. DJ has even been accused of playing with marked cards, a criticism that misses the point entirely. Granted, some of these cards are collectibles and it's tough to watch them endure the wear and tear of play, but unlike games like Flip It or Rip It, DJ's project is not intentionally destructive of Magic cards. He doesn't actively ruin anything for the sake of shock value. Instead, he uses his cards as they were intended to be used, in an almost aggressively earnest way. Recently, I sent out a tweet asking my followers if they had any cards in their collection that they would deem priceless. The post yielded far more engagement than I expected. Everyone was excited to share their stories. From sentimental altars to cards bearing the stamps of a long-lost tournament circuit, and even a few legitimate collectibles, the responses proved that the game is best remembered through that which cannot be purchased in a few clicks. I especially enjoyed my friend Tyler's anecdote. Every time my friend and I play each other in a limited event, the loser signs the cards that beat them. I'll keep this stack long after I sell my collection. I have a few cards that I would deem priceless myself. A few winters ago, after spending time with my mom for Christmas, I rolled my car and was left stranded in the middle of nowhere, Texas. All of my old Magic cards from my adolescence were destroyed in the snow, but I saved this copy of Exoskeletal Armor as a sort of tongue-in-cheek souvenir of the crash. Once again, the irony is not lost on me here. But unlike DJ, I don't have any cards that show off that beautiful organic wear, that cardstock patina. I returned to the game long after sleeves had been normalized, and so most of my collection is still in great condition. Before seeing the Gonti deck in person, I thought that was ideal. However, after coming across that Library of Alexandria and speaking with DJ, I've been reflecting on everything I own. From my cameras to my books to my clothes and my guitars, All of my favorite things tend to be those that bear some sign of use. I recall Kevin McAllister's conversation with the pigeon lady about his new roller skates, about how preservation breeds paralysis, and how keeping everything immaculate is a fool's errand. In an ecosystem of accessories designed to immortalize our stuff, and a culture that celebrates mint condition, I wonder what has been lost. I keep thinking about that 4 out of 10. This episode was sponsored by Card Kingdom and Coalesce Apparel and Design. Pick up some heavily played Magic cards to support the show, then buy a shirt and wear it until it's faded and torn. After that, head to Talarian's Kickstarter before time runs out. I know it sounds silly to pitch a deck box after waxing poetic about the beauty in used gear, but hey, there are some cards worth taking good care of. Prof's deck box can do that for you, so pick one up in the final days of this campaign. Thank you as always to my guest Douglas Johnson for helping with this episode. I'll be closing this video with a clip from our chat about the new deck he's building that has an equally unusual caveat. Thanks for watching.
This is the project where every single card has to be the opposite of unsleeved, which is sleeved in the pre-release promo-esque plastic that they have done in recent years. So every single card in this deck is and will be sealed in this plastic, so I don't need to sleeve it. I can save money on sleeves in a different way. It's great. But yeah, it's a work in progress. I will run into the same issue with cheating. Some of the cards are double-faced, and some of the cards are included with more than one card in the package. Like, I have a Modern Horizons 2 Marsh Flats that has, I think it's a zombie token on the back, so there will be some challenges there that will be future DJ's problem to deal with. The basic lands have, and just sort of the mana base in general, has been the biggest hurdle. And after the mana base is done, I've been working on sort of staples and competitive-esque high-power cards to add to the deck. One of the more iconic cards that I found for this deck recently at Vegas was I have a Damnation from the Magic Player Rewards thing back in 2006 or 2007 or wherever it was. Yeah, so I'm just sort of looking for high-powered commander cards like the Smothering Tithe-esque, Cyclonic Rift-esque kind of cards to give it an actual commander deck identity at this point.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. How about an Easter egg? I received confirmation on Twitter that Sophie is, in fact, a little doggy, and with a face like that, she really could do no wrong. This really made my day.